After her husband faked his death and eloped, leaving behind a mess, she directly gave him a taste of his own medicine, faked her death, took her dowry, married a scholar, all executed flawlessly. After my husband faked his death, I also drank the fake death potion. He faked his death and eloped with his pregnant mistress, leaving all the messy affairs of the Earl's manor for me to clean up. I also faked my death, took all my dowry to Jiangnan, and married a scholar I picked up as alive in son-in-law. 10 years later, when he returned to the capital, the Earl's manor no longer existed, and that scholar turned out to be the deposed crown prince living in exile among commoners. Once the deposed crown prince's name was cleared, I also became imperial in-laws. After my husband Yin Nan died from falling off a cliff, while sorting through his belongings, I discovered he had kept a mistress named Xing Kuyon in Hulu Alley. He treated that woman like a precious treasure. Many items from his private stash were sent to her, including an imperially bestowed jade lotus pod ornament. I thought since he had already died, as his legal wife, I should find a proper arrangement for that woman. I am a fair person, considering how difficult it is for women in this world, and she has no family or friends. Perhaps becoming a mistress wasn't something she could choose. I didn't plan to sell her off. I thought I'd just retrieve that imperially bestowed item, then give her some silver to send her back to her hometown. However, when I rushed to Gourd Alley, I happened to run into that mistress carrying bags of all sizes coming out of the small courtyard that Yin Nan rented, and then sneakily getting into an inconspicuous carriage. The woman was stunningly beautiful, her belly slightly swollen. The golden hairpin on her head looked very familiar to me. It was the ruby Rui hairpin from my dowry, which had suddenly gone missing a few days ago. Jiangnan said it was probably one of the maids in the household being light-fingered. He even punished 2 cleaning maids who served in the courtyard because of this. I never expected that he was the one who took it, and even less expected that this item would end up on a mistress's head. He really is such a good husband of mine. I was just about to step forward and confront them when I saw someone inside the carriage reach out from behind the curtain and gently help the mistress up. "Kuyon, let me help you." That voice, I knew it all too well. It was my husband Yin Nan, looking again at that large hand lifting the curtain, with its distinct fair finger bones. And most importantly, there was a scarred bite mark on the back of the hand. Yin Nan had the same wound. I was the one who bit him, because after learning that their uncle's manor was gilded on the outside but rotten inside, and that they had already racked up hundreds of thousands of taels in debt even before I married in, he wanted to use my dowry to fill the hole in my fury. I bit him, biting him until he bled profusely. I wanted to teach him a lesson, let him know I am not someone to be trifled with, and that he shouldn't even think about touching my dowry money. At the time, he just said he knew he was wrong, and coaxed me saying he'd definitely treat me well from now on, begging me to find a way to help him pay back that money. Now that I think about it, he didn't realize he was wrong. He just figured out I wasn't easy to fool. So he pulled a clean escape, using a fake death to dump all the mess at home entirely on me. What a heartless person. Miss, that man is the young master. He is not dead. My personal maid Jinji had sharp eyes. With just one glance, she also recognized that the man was Yin Nan, who should be peacefully buried by now. "It is him," I nodded, while gesturing for her to keep her voice down and pulling her aside to hide. "Why are you hiding? If you don't rush over now, the young master will elope with that mistress." She didn't understand, rolling up her sleeves, ready to charge forward and get justice for me. It is better to deal with him after he elopes. If I rush out now and his fake death fails, he'll still have to be my husband, and I'll still be forced to help their Earl's manor pay off debts. It is better to let everyone think he is dead, without travel permits. Wherever he goes, he'll only be able to hide here and there as a vagrant. No longer the high and mighty heir of the Earl's manor. Since they schemed against me like this, I'll just go with the flow and let him know the consequences of eloping. But after they leave, you'll have to live as a widow. That is so unfair to you. No matter how Jinji thought about it, she still felt I was getting the worst deal. Silly girl. Once he was my husband and I was his wife. He was my everything. I honored him above all. Now I am in the light. He is in the dark. I have money. He has none. I am superior. He is inferior. Things are getting interesting. I curled my lips. The grief from my husband's death was now completely swept away, entirely replaced by anger. He does the first. I'll do the 15th. He dares to fake his death and elope with his mistress. Then I can swiftly sever the marital bond between us in my heart. If I hadn't discovered this early, I am afraid that years later, after I've helped the Earl's estate pay off all its debts, he would return to the estate with his mistress and their children. By then, he'd still be the young Earl, and it wouldn't be excessive to elevate his mistress to equal wife status for her hard work-bearing children. Would it? Since I have no sons, his illegitimate children would naturally become the legitimate heirs to the Earl's estate. Then he'd find some excuse to divorce me, or seeing me helpless and alone, indulge his illegitimate children in seizing the shops I painstakingly built and my dowry, then slowly poison me to death. All possibilities, though I haven't experienced those things yet. I've already seen the fate waiting for me in the future. Miss is right. So what does Miss plan to do? We can't let this pair of cheating scum off too easy. Jinchi nodded. She is my dowry maid, naturally wholeheartedly on my side, thinking of me. You go back to my parents' home and have my brother find a few people to disguise themselves as mountain bandits. After they've traveled far enough, intercept and rob them, strip them of all their valuables, then give them both a good beating. Breaking their arms and legs would be even better. I am the type of person who holds grudges big time, never mind a husband's betrayal. Even if some random yellow dog pissed on my shoe, I'd have to beat it to death for revenge. They've messed with me. They've really kicked an iron plate this time, since they like eloping so much, like living under assumed names. Then I'll let them live under assumed names to their heart's content and have them really taste the bitterness of it. They think love alone can fill their stomachs, but the truth is without money you can't move an inch. Of course I won't push them to a dead end, forcing them to immediately return to the capital to admit their identities and continue their lives of wealth and glory. I'll keep them very hungry yet not starving to death, suffering yet with just enough hope to keep living, dragging it out until the Earl's Manor is completely finished. Just as I returned to the Earl's Manor, debt collectors had already blocked the entrance, though the Earl's Manor hasn't held the funeral yet. The news of Yin Nan's death is already known to everyone. The old Earl is currently cultivating immortality at a Taoist temple outside the city, unconcerned with worldly affairs, and the Earl's wife is bedridden with illness. Now with Yan Shang's death, they fear those debts will ultimately go unpaid and become bad debts. After Jinji saw this, she helped me down from the carriage from a distance, and we quietly entered the Earl's Manor through the back door. Otherwise we'd surely be entangled in trouble. Even though those debts weren't ones I owed, even though I had no idea when I married into the family, as long as I am still the young mistress of the Earl's residence. I can't stay out of it. Yan Nanshang's scheme is beyond vicious. I gave Jinji a small bag of gold nuggets. Take this to mother-in-law's courtyard, find that personal maid who is from the same hometown as you, and quietly ask around. After Yin Nanshang faked his death, mother-in-law obstructed me several times from going to the bottom of the cliff to search for his body, saying she didn't want people to see his corpse after being gnawed by wild beasts. Thinking back now, perhaps she knew the truth all along. Jinji nodded. That fellow townsperson of hers was extremely greedy for money, and the Earl's wife was stingy and petty, treating those around her harshly too. To get the truth out of that maid's mouth, this was more than enough. An hour later, Jinji returned and whispered in my ear. That maid said the Earl's wife had someone tamper with the young master's carriage, but that day the young master wasn't in the carriage. He was hiding at his mistress's place in Gord Alley drinking. Afterwards, the Earl's wife slapped her thigh and said that marrying a wealthy merchant's daughter like you was to fill the Earl's residence's debts. Once the debts are filled, her son can come back and live the good life, then find someone to ruin your reputation and have you drowned in the pond. After hearing this, I was so angry that I clenched both hands into fists. That old hag, I originally thought she was innocent and wanted to let her off. But since she also wants me dead, then she can't blame me for being ruthless. Regarding this old hag, I don't plan to do it myself. She is already terminally ill. As long as I don't lend a hand to help her, she'll surely die. Hearing the gatekeeper report that those debt collectors refuse to leave, and having received instructions from my mother-in-law, are making a fuss about wanting to see me, I said to him, Open the gate and take them to see the old madam, and tell them that I am just a woman of the inner quarters. Everything in the household still needs my mother-in-law to make decisions. My mother-in-law wanted me to clean up this mess, so I am kicking the ball back to her. Let them go make a scene in front of my mother-in-law. Best if they anger her till her mouth and eyes go crooked. After the gatekeeper left, I had Gingy and Yunju take inventory of all my dowry. Gingy didn't understand. Why, miss, you are not planning to use your own dowry to fill the Earl's manor's deficit. Are you? Do they deserve it? I shook my head. No, what I mean is to quickly smuggle these things out, rent a boat, and we'll go to Jiangnan. My dowry absolutely cannot be wasted on the Earl's manor. They wish. Gingy asked. Go to Jiangnan. I can understand you wanting to leave the Earl's manor, but why not return to your family home? I reached out and lightly tapped her forehead. Silly girl. According to law, I must observe chastity for him for 3 years before I can return home. If I go back to my family home now, will my younger sisters ever be able to marry in the future? Others will say that the daughters of our family are all heartless and ungrateful people. But if I fake my death, outsiders will only think I was hounded to death by the debts of the Earl's manor. By then, the ones being cursed at will be my mother-in-law and the entire Earl's manor. After faking my death, I'll buy a courtyard in Jiangnan. We'll move in, close the doors, and live our own little life. Won't that be wonderful? The 2 personal maids discussed it, and both felt this made sense. Who would want to be trapped in this lifeless Earl's manor for a lifetime? Who wouldn't long for the freedom and ease of the misty, rainy Jiangnan? When they heard me say this, they were all moved. Among them, Yunju was the most eager. Then when do we leave? Can I start packing things now? I smiled. You can start preparing now. Once we've transferred all my dowry out, we'll leave. But remember not to let words slip out and let people discover this matter. They all nodded. When that group of debt collectors saw my mother-in-law, they didn't care whether she was terminally ill or not. Each one red-eyed and thick-necked, reaching out to demand money from her. Someone was working an abacus. The abacus beads nearly shoved into her face. Madam Earl, your son owed me 3,000 taels of silver while he was alive. Now that he is gone, your Earl's manor should pay up, right? Someone slammed an account book in front of her sickbed. Madam Earl, the 5,000 taels you owe me from last year for silk and jewelry. When do you plan to pay? If you don't pay soon, I am going to report this to the authorities. Someone kicked over the water basin in front of them. Your Earl's manor still owes our restaurant 7,000 taels. Every time people from your manor come to eat, they just put it on the tab. You haven't paid for 10 years. Seeing them being so aggressive and giving her no face at all, mother-in-law was so angry that her chest heaved violently. My son just died. How can you be so aggressive and even barge into my home? Get out, all of you. Halfway through her words, she couldn't help but cover her mouth with a handkerchief and broke into another fit of violent coughing until her chest ached with waves of stifling pain. The 2 personal maids in her room saw this and reached out trying to drive these debt collectors out, but they didn't have enough strength. Their force was like shooing away flies. Get out, all of you get out. You are disturbing Madam's rest. None of the creditors paid any attention. One of them even grabbed one of the maids and lecherously touched her face. This maid's not bad. Worth 100 taels, I'll take her. Seeing this, another picked up an antique vase from the treasure cabinet. This vase can be used to pay off the debt too. And so the room descended into complete chaos, with that group of debt collectors grabbing whatever they saw. Some even rummaged through the cabinets looking for the maids' indenture contracts, taking people away to pay off debts. By the time I leisurely arrived with the household guards from the outer courtyard, mother-in-law's courtyard was already a complete mess. The screen had fallen over, not a single ornament was left on the curio shelf, and the cabinets had been ransacked into complete chaos. Not only were the gold and silver jewelry gone, even her favorite fox fur coat had been taken away by someone in the confusion. Of the 6 maids in her courtyard, only 3 remained now. The 3 good-looking ones had already been dragged away to pay off debts. Her mother-in-law's face turned deathly pale with anger, her shoulders shaking as she sobbed. Those bandits who let them in. Then, when she saw me, she immediately accused me. Was it you? Are you deliberately trying to anger me to death? You old woman. You knew full well I was sick. I denied it, of course. I twisted my handkerchief with a face full of grievance. Mother, you've wronged me. I had no idea they would be so vicious. I just saw them standing in the cold wind for so long, and felt sorry for them. So I told the gatekeeper to let them in to discuss the debt repayment with you, Mother. My mother-in-law was so angry she nearly fainted. She pointed at me for a long time, unable to speak. And only after quite a while did she say, "They were pitiful. This old woman nearly got scared to death by them just now." I lowered my head and admitted my fault with an excellent attitude. "Mother, I know I was wrong. I won't do it again. If there is nothing else, your daughter-in-law will take her leave now." But my mother-in-law called out to stop me, this time with an extremely gentle tone. "Yan, Niang, I heard that when you married over, you brought quite a bit of dowry. Could you possibly—" Her mouth found it hard to say, but in secret she did inhuman things. Hearing this, I said with a sigh, "Mother, let me think about it for a few days. I am going to make her think I am softening, so she'll let her guard down, and then I can secretly move my dowry out of the Earl's manor in batches." My mother-in-law became even more pleasant toward me upon hearing this. "Think it over carefully. My son has truly married a virtuous daughter-in-law." I nodded and left her courtyard. Over half a month, I secretly emptied my private storage of the dowry, using the excuse of clearing out clutter to secretly move it outside the manor, then had people transport it to a merchant ship I'd already rented. When my mother-in-law impatiently sent someone to ask how my consideration was going, the time had finally come. I said to my mother-in-law through tears, "That is all dowry my parents gave me. Why should I use my own dowry to fill the Earl's manor's holes?" "I don't agree." My mother-in-law got angry and smashed a worthless tea set. "You are my daughter-in-law. You must listen to me on this matter. Your money is the Earl's manor's money." I took the opportunity to cry my way back to my own courtyard and had people spread this matter around, letting everyone outside know how my mother-in-law coveted her daughter-in-law's dowry, how she was forcing me to fill her marquee manor's holes. After my mother-in-law found out, she summoned me and pointed at me with her hands on her hips, scolding, "You deliberately spread it around. You just want to embarrass my Earl's manor. Don't forget you are also part of the Earl's manor now. We prosper together. We fall together." I looked up at her with blurred eyes trembling. "Mother, do you have to force me to death before you are satisfied?" Mother-in-law snorted coldly. "Threatening me with death, you old hag. This old hag wasn't raised on fear. If you've got the guts, go ahead and die." That is exactly what I was waiting for her to say. Upon hearing it, I appeared heartbroken on the surface, but secretly I was overjoyed. Just wait till she drowns in the people's spit. I cried as I returned to my own courtyard, then locked myself inside my room. At night I set a fire, burning down the entire courtyard. By the time everyone got up and rushed over to fight the fire, the flames were already shooting up high with thick smoke billowing. When mother-in-law was carried over, only ruins remained. Both I and my 4 personal maids were all gone. She stared at those ruins, crying like her parents had died. The dowry, all her dowry is gone now. Not only that, after my parents received the news, they immediately rushed to the Earl's manor to demand an explanation for me. Mother-in-law was in the wrong and couldn't explain herself clearly, falling into a disadvantage. My parents knew full well my death was faked, so they didn't take it to the authorities. They simply severed ties with the Earl's manor from then on, ceasing all contact, and made the whole affair known to everyone. Now that word spread about the Earl's wife forcing her daughter-in-law to death. Those creditors came knocking again, demanding the Earl's wife pay back the money immediately. Unable to repay the money, those people went to the authorities to file complaints. Surely nothing good would come of it. When I received my parents' letter by carrier pigeon, 3 days had already passed, and I had already set off along the waterway heading to Jiangnan. 10 years later, I was lying on the Arhat bed under the grape trellis to cool off when Jinji, who had already married, came running over in a hurry. "Miss, something terrible has happened. You must go to the front courtyard and see. Many soldiers have come and surrounded the young master." Upon hearing this, I immediately sat up, and the round fan in my hand fell to the ground from panic. What for? Could it be that my faked death has been discovered? But that is just a family matter of the Earl's household. Why would they arrest my husband? Gingy shook her head, gasping for breath. I don't know. Miss, should you take the children and slip out through the back door first? Save whoever you can. Upon hearing this, I immediately pointed toward the room. You and Yunju take Rugia and Chenja out through the back door first and hide in the Uli Inn. I'll go check the front. He is the son-in-law I picked up. He has been good to me, so I can't just stand by and watch him die. The two maids immediately did as told and took the children to hide. Yais, I got married again. 10 years ago, on my way to Jiangnan. I picked up a drowning scholar. The scholar was extremely handsome, with sword-like brows and starry eyes. I was momentarily captivated by his beauty, so to repay his debt of gratitude, I had him marry into my family. I've been husband and wife with him for 10 years, and even have a son and daughter. No, our daughter Rugia is 8 years old, and our son Chenja is 5. They both look like my husband, extremely good-looking, like a pair of New Year picture dolls. After tucking some gold and silver valuables on myself for emergencies, I hurried to the front courtyard, and indeed saw my son-in-law surrounded by a group of soldiers. Tinyan, what is going on? I'll protect you. Whatever it is, come at me. I am his wife. After saying this, I instinctively reached out to shield him behind me. After nearly drowning, his body had been frail. All these years I'd been carefully nursing him with expensive medicinal broths, and only in the past 2 years had his health improved a little. He mustn't be frightened into illness again. Hearing this, Shen Tinyan, who had been hesitating about how to confess his true identity to me, coughed awkwardly, and then reached out to hold my hand. Wife, you've misunderstood. They're not here to harm me, but to escort us back to the capital. I froze in place upon hearing this. Go back to the capital for what? Aren't you an orphan? I looked at Shen Tinyan suspiciously, then swept my gaze over those soldiers in official uniforms with solemn expressions. The standard issue long sabers at their waists made it clear they were elite troops from the capital. Seeing my face full of confusion, Shen Tinyan sighed, pulled me aside to a secluded spot, and then dropped to his knees with a thud. Wife, I was wrong. I've been hiding something from you. My brain went numb from the shock of the scene before me, and I became flustered too, even forgetting to help him up. What do you mean you are not an orphan? Don't tell me you have another wife and children in the capital. He hastily denied. No, I don't have another wife and children. I only have you and the kids, and I will never change my heart in the future. Otherwise, let me drown again and die a terrible death. Ever since he drowned last time, he has been left with after effects and is extremely afraid of water. Because of this, I had all the water vats in the courtyard moved away. This oath is exceptionally vicious for him, as long as he doesn't have another wife and children. That is fine. I felt a bit more reassured and reached out to pull him up from the ground. That is good then. Is there anything else? Tell me everything at once. Upon hearing this, Shen Tinyan pulled me to sit down in the pavilion. He spoke at length. My lady, actually I deceived you. I am not an ordinary scholar. My father is the current emperor. I was once named Crown Prince, but was later demoted to commoner status for the crime of treason. After being demoted, I was originally supposed to be exiled to Jiangnan for hard labor. Who knew that on the way I encountered bandits, and to survive I was forced to jump into the river. I can't swim, so they didn't pursue me relentlessly for these 10 years. Everyone has believed I was dead. Later I met you, and we fell in love at first sight. I was afraid you would push me away because of my complicated background, so I hid my origins from you and became your husband for 10 years under the identity of an orphan. But I never expected that one day the treason case from back then would be retried because the fourth prince let something slip while drunk. Now Father Emperor finally believes that I was framed back then and didn't truly commit treason. Father is getting old and doesn't have many years left. He wants to see us before he goes to see our children to make arrangements for us. Consider it compensation for me. Are you willing to bring the children and return to the capital with me? So my live-in son-in-law is actually the former crown prince. Then will he inherit the throne in the future? Will he become an emperor with 3 palaces and 6 courts? Thinking of this, I asked him directly, Will you become crown prince again? I was married before. His Majesty probably won't agree to me being your crown princess." He immediately understood what I meant. I had mentioned my past to him before. He knew what I was afraid of. Shan Tingyun held me tightly in his arms and promised me, "So many years have passed in the palace now. My second brother has become the crown prince. I won't be reinstated. I am third in line, so in the future I'll probably be an idle prince, and you'll be my princess. No matter who appears, it won't change the fact that you are my wife. The Earl's manor no longer exists anyway. No matter who digs up what happened back then, I can protect you. Do you want to return to the capital to see your father-in-law and mother-in-law?" I thought about it and nodded. Shen Tingyun said, "Then let's bring the children back to the capital together." Former husband Yin Nan faked his death, eloped, and left behind a mess. Current husband Shen Tingyun, after his name was cleared, first thought of bringing the female lead back to the capital to meet his parents and give her status. Both involved returning to the capital, but one was scheming while the other was protecting. The contrast is really too stark. After returning to the capital, I accompanied Shen Tingyun with the children to see the emperor. The emperor's tears streamed down his face when he saw Shen Tingyun. "Third son, it is I who has wronged you, wronged your mother, the empress's spirit in heaven." Shen Tingyun was originally the most virtuous and filial among his many sons, and was also the legitimate son born to him and the empress. Yet, because of his suspicion, he had been left to wander among the common people for a full 10 years, and had nearly drowned in the river. When facing the emperor, Shen Tingyun wasn't as emotional as he was, only calling out to him indifferently, "Father Emperor." All the grievances and unwillingness had been worn away completely over those 10 years. His heart was now calm, without desire for power or longing for his father. It seemed like everything from the past had nothing to do with him anymore. He was like an outsider. To him, what mattered most now wasn't fighting for the throne or his father's favor, but his little family with me. He no longer cared about affairs of state, only wanting to stay by my side and our children's to live a few peaceful days. The emperor originally wanted to give him a lucrative position, but Shen Tingyun refused. "Father Emperor, your son's body is frail now. Being alive is already a stroke of great fortune. If you truly wish to compensate me, just give me a nominal position." Seeing that he didn't seem to be throwing a tantrum, and that there wasn't the slightest bit of unwillingness in his eyes, the emperor panicked instead. "You've changed, third son. You weren't like this before. You used to be so ambitious, wanting to become a beloved crown prince. You also built irrigation works, wanting to make great achievements. Are you still blaming Father Emperor?" Shen Tingyun's response was to have the imperial physician take his pulse. The emperor heard with his own ears the physician say that Shen Tingyun's body had just recovered, and that he must take good care of himself from now on, otherwise he wouldn't live past 40. This made the guilt in his heart even worse. He had originally planned to use Shen Tingyun's return to balance the current crown prince, but seeing Shen Tingyun's body so weak, he finally gave up on this idea. "Forget it. I will not burden you anymore. I hereby ennoble you as Prince Cheng, grant you a fief of 1,000 households, bestow upon you a princely mansion and 1,000 taels of gold. From now on, just take good care of your health." After thanking the emperor, Shen Tingyun pointed at me and the pair of children and said, "I also ask Father Emperor to grant her the title of my princess consort of Cheng and to register the 2 children in the Imperial Jade Register." The emperor had long since sent people to investigate me thoroughly. Daughter of a wealthy merchant in the capital, married once but faked her death to escape, had saved Shen Tingyun's life, and even bore him a pair of children. The emperor originally disliked that I had been married before, and wanted to make me Shen Tingyun's secondary consort, planning to bestow a noble lady upon Shen Tingyun as his primary consort, but when the words reached his lips, he swallowed them back. Because he could see that Shen Tingyun's heart and eyes were now completely filled with me and the children. If he, as the Father Emperor, became the villain who broke up the lovebirds, he feared it would only drive Shen Tingyun's heart further away from him. The emperor finally sighed, "As you wish." With one word from the emperor, I became the confirmed Princess Cheng. My pair of children were both entered into the Imperial Jade Registry. From now on, I no longer have to hide in the shadows, sneaking around. I can live openly and honorably. After our family of 4 thanked the emperor, we were led by the palace attendants to offer incense and kowtow before the late empress's memorial tablet. After leaving the palace, since the Prince Cheng's manor hadn't been tidied up yet, we went straight back to my maternal family's home. That night, my mother pulled me aside for a private talk. She said, "Daughter, you've finally made it through the hard times. Now that you are Princess Cheng, even if Yin Nan comes back alive, he can't do a thing to you anymore." I nodded. This is a blessing in disguise for me. Prince Cheng has treated me very well all these years. That night, Mother told me about many things that happened after I left the capital back then. For example, after I faked my death because the Earl's wife couldn't repay those debts, the Earl's manor was directly seized by the authorities, and the belongings inside, along with the servants who had signed death contracts, were all taken to pay off the debts. Even so, the money still wasn't enough to repay everything. The Earl's wife was driven to desperation by the debt collectors and slit her wrists and died. After her death, the emperor sent people to reclaim the Earl's manor, and it has now been bestowed upon another official to live in. Mother also mentioned Yin Nan. She said that back then, after Yin Nan and Xin Qiun were robbed clean on the road, Yin Nan was also beaten half to death by the bandits, and his mistress's face was slashed to shreds. The two of them hid in a small town because of the Earl's manor's debts, never daring to return to the capital. Their days were tight, but that mistress's belly was productive. She gave him 2 sons and a daughter. Me mother was furious and would occasionally send people to the small town to make trouble for them. But when they couldn't hold on anymore and wanted to return to the capital, she'd give them a little taste of sweetness, keeping them trapped there all along. Hearing this, I said, "Mother, now that my identity can be made public, you can let them return to the capital." I was very much looking forward to seeing what kind of mood they'd be in when they found out the Earl's manor was long gone. My mother said with a smile, "I'll have someone arrange it right away. From the moment he let you down, it has been a fight to the death between us and him." She too was looking forward to Yin Nan's fate when he learnt the truth. 2 months later, after Yin Nan received the false news that the Earl's manor had already paid off all its debts, he hurried back to the capital with Xin Qiun. However happy they were on the road, that is how anxious and frantic they became when they couldn't find the Earl's manor. When the servant who went to investigate came back to report, he described it vividly, that Yin Nan brought his mistress. And when he saw those vermilion-coloured gates, he tried to barge right in, but was stopped by a sharp-eyed servant who drove him out. Only then did he discover that the plaque outside the manor gates had long been changed to Le Manor. He asked people around him, and only then learned that the Earl's manor had long ceased to exist in this world. Now, with nowhere to turn, the travel money he had was squandered clean on his way to the capital, leaving his family of 5 with no choice but to sleep on the streets. That mistress had a huge fight with him over this, saying she only got together with him because he was the heir of the Earl's manor. Had she known he'd end up as nothing, she would never have borne him so many children. Now she is making a fuss about abandoning the children and leaving on her own, seeing how she only cared about wealth and wasn't sincere toward him. Yin Nan had a huge fight with her, then actually abandoned her and the children, and ran to your parents' home to request an audience with your father and mother. Hearing this, I stood up and asked Shen Tingyun, who was squatting nearby feeding the parrot, "Your Highness, would you like to go back to my parents' home with me to watch the show?" He clapped his hands, shaking off the bird feed in his hands. "Let's go." So I had someone hitch up the carriage and went to my parents' home together with him. When the carriage stopped near my parents' home, from far away we could hear someone kneeling in front of the main gate, crying and shouting, "Father-in-law, I know I was wrong, father-in-law, I beg you to lend me some silver to get by for the sake of Jiangnan." My parents naturally wouldn't come out to see him, and even the servant blocking the entrance wouldn't let him barge in at all. The servant raised his hand to chase him away. "Our master has no son-in-law, like you, who faked his death to dodge debts, and then drove his own wife to her death." Yin Nan refused to leave and even slandered me. If she hadn't refused to pay off my debts and serve my mother back then, the Earl's manor would still be here. She ruined my Earl's manor to this extent, so it is only right that I ask my father-in-law for some money. Truly, for the sake of money, he'd give up everything. Seeing this, everyone pointed and whispered about him. Someone said, "What an irresponsible beast. Your wife was driven to death by you, and you still dare to come ask your father-in-law for money, truly shameless. Others said, I heard he has been hiding these past few years and had 2 sons and a daughter with his mistress. How does he have the nerve to come back? Seeing this, I had someone fetch those old creditors from the Earl's Manor to block him. Paying debts is only natural. So half an hour later, Yin Nan, who failed to borrow money, was taken away by a group of creditors. I heard that later, because he couldn't repay the money. He was directly sold to Nanfeng Pavilion. The once lavishly spending heir of the Earl's Manor had now become a plaything ridden by thousands and slept with by tens of thousands. I heard that in order to pay off his debts sooner, he sold his 2 sons, 1 daughter, and that mistress to repay his debts. The 2 sons became servants in wealthy households, while the daughter and mistress were sold directly to a brothel. The whole family neatly became part of the lowly registered class. They'll probably never be able to turn their lives around in this lifetime. Shen Tingyun's assessment of this, Madam, he looks so shifty-eyed and his character is terrible too. What did you ever see in him before? Actually, before Yin Nan and Xinqiun eloped. During those few years when he lived in comfort and luxury, his appearance was passable. Though naturally he couldn't compare to a handsome man like Shen Tingyun. I sighed. I was young and easily fooled back then, couldn't tell people from ghosts. Shen Tingyun was pleased to hear this, and he said, But your judgment improved later on. You chose this prince, and this prince will definitely not let you lose. Who in the capital doesn't know of Prince Cheng's devotion to me? He never took a concubine his entire life. The many affairs of the household were all managed by me on ordinary days, while he only had to be an idle prince come to think of it. After he became a prince, the status between us was no different from before. When things came up, I still made the decisions, and he listened to me in everything. He seemed to still be that live, in son-in-law from before. He seemed to greatly enjoy his days as alive, in son-in-law, and thus was too content to think of leaving. The following spring, after the old emperor passed away, the new emperor tried multiple times to give him some real power and have him attend morning court every day. But he declined every time. He said, I am used to being idle, so I won't go join the commotion at court. This way, the new emperor felt reassured, and in his delight, rewarded us with many fine things. These days passed quite comfortably. One day, Shen Tingyun and I went to the marquise's mansion for a banquet, and we ran into Yin Nan serving wine to a man with his chest half exposed at the feast. He looked up and saw me, so shocked that he dropped the wine cup in his hand. Jiangnan, you are not dead, so you also faked your death. How dare you? It seems he was very surprised. I laughed. That is right. You pulled the first move, so I'll pull the second. I am not cleaning up your bowmanner's mess for you. Yin Nan lunged at me trying to hit me, but was kicked away by the quick-handed Jinji. You are nothing but a servant now. Our young lady is now the Princess Cheng, not someone you can touch. I was very satisfied with Jinji's attitude, pulled out a gold hairpin from my head and rewarded her. Well said. Then I put my arm around Shen Tingyun and said to him, This is my husband now, Prince Cheng, the current emperor's own younger brother. I am so glad you faked your death and left me back then. Otherwise, how would I have met Prince Cheng and become Princess Cheng? Yin Nan was so furious that he spat out a mouthful of fresh blood, then fell to the ground unconscious. Jinji kicked him a couple times, saw he wasn't moving, checked his breathing and said, Miss, he is dead. Because I became Princess Cheng, Yin Nan was actually angered to death, died well. I dropped a line, toss him in the mass grave outside the city. Then I left the banquet together with Prince Cheng. The grudge between Yansheng and me was finally settled. I didn't feel the slightest bit sorry about his death, only felt incredibly relieved in my heart. Trying to scheme against me, this ending is what he deserves.